What happens when you get struck by a lightning? When lightning chooses its unfortunate target, it brings along unimaginable power in a mere blink of an eye. Millions of volts surge through the air, seeking a path to the ground. If you become the unlucky conductor, the lightning's immense electrical energy courses through your body, travels along your nervous system, muscles, and blood vessels, wreaking havoc as it goes. The effects can be catastrophic. You may experience burns at the intense heat, vaporizes the water in your cells, creating a plasma channel that can reach temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. The incredible forces of lightning can also cause fractures, internal injuries, and damage to the organs due to the tremendous pressure waves it creates. But here's the astonishing part. If your body offers high resistance, lightning may choose an alternative path, avoiding vital organs. However, it can affect your nervous system, leading to memory loss, headache, and even personality changes.
Most terrifying lightning strike caught on camera.
With their keys to the cage and the devil to pay, we lay to find and scream.
Lightning. It's one of nature's most spectacular and potentially deadly displays. It is unpredictable, powerful, and strikes with unfathomable frequency.
There are between 6 and 8 million lightning strikes that occur worldwide every day.
What lightning really is in its most basic sense is it's a giant spark that's happening between two areas of charge in a thundercloud.
While natural disasters, such as earthquakes and cyclones, may claim more lives annually, the effects of lightning strikes can last a lifetime.
As electricity travels through the body, it can have significant impacts on the circulatory and nervous systems of the people that it comes in contact with.
There are after effects that can be permanent at the neurological level, with notable marrow damage and paraparesis, damage to both lower limbs, which makes it very difficult for people to walk again.
But how exactly is lightning created? And are there any positive benefits to this extraordinary phenomenon?
Paradoxically, while they are dangerous, they are a condition of life on the planet. If we had no more lightning, we would die.
Lightning is one of the most powerful phenomena on Earth. Each strike travels at a speed of about 128,000 kilometers per second. That's half the speed of light, and temperatures can reach almost 28,000 degrees Celsius. These dangerous bolts, only the width of a finger, are also one of nature's most recurrent spectacles.
Lightning strikes billions of times around the world every year, packing temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun and thousands of amps of current.
There are between 6 and 8 million lightning strikes that occur worldwide every day. That works out to an average of 100 lightning bolts that occur somewhere in the world per second.
Globally, lightning strikes cause over 4,000 fatalities a year, with more than a third of those incidents striking people who work outside, like farmers, or those who engage in outdoor recreation.
When there is a golf tournament, as soon as there is a lightning strike, the tournament stops. Because if the person points his club up to the sky, there is every chance that he will be struck by lightning.
At the PGA Tour's Western Open in 1975, 5 professional golfers were struck by lightning. All of them survived, while in some cases the injuries were career-threatening. For others, the injuries were career-ending. Today, most golf courses are equipped with lightning detection or early warning technology that allows course officials to call off play if there is lightning activity in the area. However, those same systems aren't in place for all outdoor sports.
Major League Baseball does not have a lightning policy. NFL does, but Major League Baseball does not. That becomes a huge problem for me. I'm the forecaster for the Indians, and I'm trying to tell them, guys, we have a big thunderstorm coming. You got to shut her down. We can't shut it down until the umpire says we can shut it down. So I just sit and cringe and pray that nothing happens.
Organized sports are of particular concern due to the large amounts of people gathered. It is very rare that lightning strikes affect just one person in a crowd. Ground currents account for approximately 50 to 55% of all lightning strike deaths and injuries, and can affect several people at once.
More people are struck or impacted by what is known as ground current, when lightning strikes nearby and the electricity travels through the ground and then comes in contact with the person.
On September 16, 2019, in Kingston, Jamaica, a secondary school football match is disrupted when a lightning bolt strikes nearby, sending multiple players and a referee to the ground.
You see people playing football, and suddenly you hear bang, and they're all stiff on the ground. So it didn't strike anyone, but the lightning hit the ground, and it's spreading through the ground.
When a bolt, which contains at least 20,000 amperes of current, strikes land, the electricity spreads through the wet soil, which acts as a highly charged conductor. Even though the voltage decreases with distance, it is still a potentially deadly current, capable of traveling several hundred meters from point of contact.
It occurred in a soccer match when lightning struck nearby and the electricity traveled through the moist ground and up through the legs of the soccer players and the referee. As electricity travels through the body, it can have significant impacts on the circulatory and nervous systems of the people that it comes in contact with.
As electricity enters the body, it short-circuits the electrical signals that keep the heart, lungs, and nervous systems running smoothly. That disruption can cause cardiac arrest, seizures, or a host of other potentially lifelong pathologies.
There is a noise that is made, thunder, and the noise can cause a ruptured eardrum and sometimes permanent deafness. There are after effects that can be permanent at the neurological level, with notable marrow damage and paraparesis, damage to both lower limbs, which makes it very difficult for people to walk again.
Two of the players are admitted to hospital after complaints of chest pain and are released the next day. Several players and some spectators report eye pain. Another player, failing to respond to treatment on the field, is carried out on a stretcher. He survives, but is unable to speak or move his left side.
What is less resistant to electricity is the central nervous system, the central and peripheral nervous system. All it takes is a flash of lightning passing through a nerve, and the nerve is paralyzed.
Nerve damage can also be caused by a different type of strike called side flash. It is the second most common cause of casualties and injuries after ground current.
In some cases, you can be struck by what is known as a side flash, and that is when you're standing under an object or near an object that has been struck by lightning, and the electricity jumps from that object into you.
In Dalian, China, an anchor for Dalian Weather TV is covering a storm from the rooftop of a multi-story building when lightning filled the sky. Feeling a shock in his forearm, he drops his umbrella and reports numbness in one of his hands.
With the reporter in China, it's possible that lightning jumped from the fence that he was standing near and the electricity traveled through his body. Now, when that happens, you can get nerve damage because there's a lot of electricity flowing through your body at that time. The nerve damage could cause tingling or numbness in the hand.
Wet soil and metal are both powerful conductors of electricity, and so are live trees due to their sap and water content.
Seeking shelter under a tree during a thunderstorm can be especially dangerous.
You could be struck. If you are standing near a tree, the tree could get struck and you could get hit too. And I just think a lot of people ignore that risk because they haven't directly been impacted by it before. Unfortunately, specifically with lightning, when you are impacted, it's too late.
On March 12, 2021, 4 gardeners in Gurugram, India are taking shelter under a tree during a rainstorm when they are indirectly struck and knocked unconscious.
Most people lean against a tree with their back against the tree. It provides a direct path from the tree into the person's chest, which can then interfere with the respiratory system and impact the heart.
The victims are immediately taken to hospital, where they are treated for burns.
That electricity passes through the body and causes burns, not necessarily due directly to the electricity, but because of the energy inside. It can melt objects that you may have on it. And when you receive a burn, you absolutely must empty your pockets, because it can melt keys, for example, which are in the pockets, and burn your legs very, very intensely, like buttons, like anything that can, coins. Anything metallic can lead to burns.
The third most common type of lightning strikes are called upward leaders, also known as streamers.
Lightning occurs, there's a downward leader from the cloud, and it's looking for a place to strike. Upward streamers emanate away from objects on the ground and then come into contact with the downward leader, creating that full lightning stroke. An upward streamer contains electricity and can actually electrocute somebody that way.
While lightning can cause significant bodily injury, its emotional effects can't be underestimated.
Depressive syndrome and fatigue affects 50% of people without knowing why. But we go from a status of good health to a status of bad health. So we mourn, and mourning is difficult to do, whether you are young or old. You become sick or even disabled in some occasions. So inevitably, you may get depressed.
L'inverse ne serait pas normal.
To ensure the best chance for safety, experts recommend implementing one very important rule.
When thunder roars, go indoors. And whether you're on the land or in the water, the safest place to be during a thunderstorm is actually not outside. So whether you're in the water or on the land, during a thunderstorm, you need to immediately seek a lightning-safe place. And a lightning-safe place is a fully enclosed metal vehicle, like a car, or a modern building that has electricity and plumbing running through the walls.
Normally, if you have a full building with plumbing and electricity, it's a pretty safe building because any charge from the lightning that enters that building will probably be carried through the electrical or plumbing lines into the ground and be dissipated. Inside of a regular hard-topped car is also relatively safe. And that's actually because the car itself acts as what's called a Faraday cage, which is a giant metal box, and so any currents that interacts with that will be carried around that exterior of that metal box or Faraday cage.
But in one area not prone to thunderstorms, the shock and awe of a lightning show is simply too irresistible to ignore. Thousands of people flock outside for a first-hand glimpse of a rare, electrifying spectacle, despite the warnings to stay inside. There is a saying that lightning never strikes the same place twice. But over Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, massive thunderstorms create lightning at least 300 days out of the year. Strikes can occur as many as 1,000 times in 1 hour, earning it a special distinction as the most struck place on Earth. Why? The region contains all the necessary ingredients for the perfect thunderstorm.
You have to have this warm, moist air that can be lifted into the atmosphere with high amounts of instability. Instability is when the atmosphere cools faster than the air that's being lifted into the atmosphere. And when you have warm, moist air and a lot of atmospheric instability, like occurs in the tropics in South America, in Africa, and Southeast Asia, you can get these prolific lightning storms that produce thousands to millions of lightning events over the course of a year.
Lake Maracaibo's unique topography assists in the formation of these storms. The Caribbean Sea flows into the lake, providing an endless supply of warm water, while the tropical sun pulls additional moisture. At dusk, strong winds whip through the surrounding mountains, forcing warm air high into the troposphere. This forms huge cumulonimbus clouds.
Cumulonimbus is full of water droplets. At a certain altitude, those water droplets turn into ice. Due to gravitation, this ice will then tend to descend, and through friction will actually generate electricity. We have a separation of electric charges, of charged particles, which will in fact produce electricity within this cloud.
A positive charge builds at the top of the cloud, while a negative charge builds at the bottom. Electrical charges between these opposites eventually grow strong enough to overcome the air's resistance to electrical flow, and sparks begin to fly.
The first signs of lightning actually begin with intra-cloud activity, sparks that will occur inside our cloud. And then, after a while, this intra-cloud activity will propagate towards the ground and thus reach the Earth.
The negative charge at the bottom of the thundercloud moves towards the ground, forming an invisible path called a step leader. The charge's path connects to positive charges surging up from the ground, completing an electrical circuit.
This is what we call lightning strike, or in more scientific terms, the return arc.
While most people are familiar with lightning that strikes the ground, It only accounts for a small portion of what storm clouds actually create.
Cloud-to-ground lightning makes up about 10 to 30% of most thunderstorms. The other 70 to 90% of lightning in a thunderstorm is actually known as in-cloud lightning, which occurs within the cloud itself, between multiple clouds, or from the cloud to the air.
Though Lake Maracaibo's lightning events are exceptional, nearby countries Brazil and Argentina hold lightning records of their own. October 31st, 2018. Over the night sky of Porto Alegre, Brazil, a single bolt of lightning slices through the atmosphere. It stretches from the country's southern tip more than 700 kilometers or 440 miles to the edge of Argentina. Normal lightning flashes typically measure only a few miles long.
The lightning that struck and traveled 440 miles was a primarily in-cloud lightning flash that occurred in a mesoscale convective system. A mesoscale convective system is a very large complex of thunderstorms that can extend for hundreds or thousands of miles.
The clouds in these giant systems have the potential to create vast amounts of electrical energy.
And because these occur in large complexes, there's a lot of electricity traveling through all of the clouds. And lightning wants to dissipate that charge and and get into a neutral state, and wants to have a cloud that has no charge. So when there's a lot of electrical charge, there's a lot of potential for the lightning to travel around through the clouds in what a lot of people think of as spider lightning. And that is the horizontal lightning that you see extending along the bottom of clouds, and it's trying to use up all of the electrical charge in these large clouds.
Another record-breaking strike takes place in central Argentina on March 4th, 2019. It lasts 16.73 seconds and is the longest-lasting lightning strike on record.
The lightning strike in Argentina was another very long-lasting in-cloud lightning flash. And it lasted over 15 seconds. Again, this was in a mesoscale convective system. A lot of these occur in South America and in the Great Plains of North America.
The Great Plains state of Oklahoma is, in fact, the previous record holder for the longest in-distance flash. It occurred in 2007 and was 321 kilometers long. The longest in-duration record is held by one bolt that flashed over Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, France, in 2012 for just under 8 seconds.
If you draw a line between Bordeaux and Strasbourg, well, the south of this line corresponds to the most struck by lightning.
Lightning occurs most frequently in Italy and France, with France seeing thunderstorms 250 days out of the year.
In certain areas, such as the southeast of France, there are periods of so-called Mediterranean storms, the famous thunderstorms that we used to call Cévennes, and which, on the other hand, occur at the end of the summer, and typically in September.
A Cévennes episode consists of very violent and highly localized storms formed when warm and humid air from the Mediterranean heads north into France. When it hits the mountains of Cévennes, it meets the cold air at high altitude, resulting in thunderstorms. These storms typically happen in autumn and can last for several hours.
In Nîmes, in September 2002, a stationary thunderstorm produced lightning for more than 10 hours. The inhabitants of Nîmes saw lightning non-stop.
The stationary storm in Nîmes, like the ones in South America, were also part of a mesoscale convection system. The storm resulted in catastrophic flash floods, and at least one lightning fatality. At the other end of the spectrum, both the North and South poles are the least likely to see lightning. Thunderstorms need to follow the basic recipe of rapidly rising warm, moist air colliding with cool, dry air above. But at high latitudes, that hotter, moist air is far less common. Those ingredients are also less common off the west coast of the United States, particularly California.
California doesn't typically see a lot of lightning in a given year. The Pacific Ocean and its cool waters near the west coast of the United States help to impede the development of thunderstorms. So when lightning occurs in Southern California, the Bay Area, or other parts of California that aren't typically lightning prone, it gets a lot of attention.
In February and March of 2019, Southern California is battered by a string of thunderstorms. They are spawned from a weather event known as an atmospheric river, one of Earth's conveyor belts that moves heat and moisture from the equator towards the poles.
An atmospheric river is a high-altitude river of high moisture that came from the Pacific Ocean into the west coast of the United States. Associated with this river of moisture were strong winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, helping to trigger a large number of showers and thunderstorms, producing a lot of rain over a 2-week period over Southern California. In addition to all of this rain came thunderstorms.
So in a thunderstorm, when you have all of this rising air, you have all kinds of stuff rubbing together, and that creates an electrical charge, and that electrical charge needs an outlet.
On March 5th, these powerful thunderstorms produce an unusual and enormous amount of lightning that is seen all the way from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara, a distance covering over 145 kilometers. 2,000 cloud flashes and 1,000 cloud-to-ground strikes are reported in just a matter of 2 hours.
Having a significant lightning event like this, where you had 2,000 lightning events that occurred in just a couple of hours, makes up a significant portion of the yearly lightning of Southern California in a very small period of time. This can have significant impacts on the region, including power outages, potentially injuring or killing people if they were to be struck by lightning, and even triggering wildfires.
This rare lightning show turns into an evening spectacle. Thousands of awestruck residents flock outside to capture the event on their cell phones. The Weather Service issues warnings on social media for residents to head inside.
I think the big thing about thunder and lightning is, having an awareness about it. People get very cavalier attitudes when there's a thunderstorm around. A lot of people want to go out and look at the thunderstorm rather than take cover. And that's something that's pretty annoying as a meteorologist. I appreciate and I understand that power. And I want to tell people of that power, but they're fascinated by it. They want to go look at it.
Fortunately, no injuries or deaths are reported, but several areas suffer power outages. A few small wildfires are ignited, and shortly after a plane takes off, it's struck and is forced to land.
You don't want to fly an airplane into a thunderstorm. That's a bad idea to start with. But they're designed to be able to handle that if it does end up flying into an area where there could be lightning.
Aircraft are insulated from lightning. The electricity actually travels around the body of the aircraft. So for the most part, aircraft are safe from lightning when it occurs, and the electronics in the aircraft are not affected.
While thunderstorms always have lightning, lightning doesn't always need a thunderstorm. Perhaps there is no better example than the mesmerizing lightning show created by the Taal volcanic eruption on January 12, 2020.